following message was recorded during Summer Camp Meeting 2014 at Golden Plains Baptist Church in Portage la Prairie, Manitoba. Our speakers this year were Evangelist Sam Gipp, Pastor Danny Farley, and Pastor Percy Lake. We hope and pray that this message will be a blessing to you.
Well, amen, amen. Good to be saved? Amen. Good to be in church? Amen. I like to be in church on a Monday night. Isn't that nice? I also like to be in church on a Tuesday night. I just want to let you know, man, what is tonight? I love to be in church on Wednesday night. Yeah, well, okay, that's what evangelism is. You just never know where you are. Who are you people anyway? Well, it is good to be in church on whatever night it happens to be tonight. Kathy and I are glad to be here. We always look forward to coming up here. I count your pastor as a good friend. We talk about him all the time down there in the States. I hope none of that gets back to him. But anyway, it is just good to be here. Good to see Brother Lake. Good to see him. Yes, sir. Good to see Brother Farley. I'm going to ask you to open your Bible somewhere. Go to Matthew chapter 7. I'm not preaching out of that. I just want to see if it's in your version. Now, I got to give you basic tonight is just a warning. It really is a warning. In fact, before I do this, I got to make something clear. Something your pastor said about the offering. He said if you want to give it to a specific speaker, put their name on it. And of course, you know my name is Gipp. But sometimes some people give it to us and they spell my name in Greek, which is L-A-K-E. And sometimes they do Latin, which is F-A-R-L-E-Y. So don't be deceived by the different spelling. All right. Well, look, you know what vertigo is? Vertigo is where, now I'm not a pilot, okay? And I'm not interested in being a pilot. I was flying with a guy in a light plane. Obviously he was the pilot. And so we're up at altitude, and he goes, he takes his hand off the yoke, and he goes, take the yoke. I said, I don't want to. He said, well, fly the plane. I said, I don't want to fly the plane. I didn't want to fly the plane. I just didn't want to. He's flying. He's doing fine. Hadn't had a heart attack yet. We can do this. He goes, well, then we're going to crash. I said, well, then we're going to crash. You say, why? I don't want to fly the plane. He's flying the plane. He's doing fine, all right? I don't have a desire to fly a plane. Down in the States back in the 60s and 50s, they had a NASCAR driver. His name was A.J. Foyt. He always wanted to buy a plane and fly it. And so him and the guy, he bought this plane, and they got in it. And so Foyt takes off in this plane, and he's flying around for a while, and he says to the guy, he says, okay, so I did they were partners, that's what it was. They bought this plane in partners. And so, Foyt takes off and flies around for a while, and he goes, he says to the guy, well, okay, so I've had my turn. He said, now you go ahead and fly and then land it. And the guy goes, no, you go ahead and land it. He goes, no, not really, it's both of our plane, and I've had my half. I took off and flew, and he was, well, yeah, but he says, you can go ahead and land it. And Foyt finally says, or the guy finally says, look, you have to land it. He said to A.J. Foyt, he said, I don't know how to fly. And A.J. Foyt looked over and says, neither do I. They literally he just by the seat of his pants got it off the ground. They finally by the seat of the pants got it on the ground. But there is a condition when you're flying. It's called vertigo. And that's when you fly into a fog. Isn't this amazing? You fly into a fog where you cannot with your eye see anything, and it affects your ear because that's where your balance is. There's something to that. And so you fly into a fog, and you lose your balance. One of the most terrifying things I ever heard. It was a Moody Science film years ago, and it was about a guy. It was the actual tape of a man. He had about 3 people on a light plane. He was visual flight rules. Visual flight rules means you are not allowed to fly into any conditions where you have to use the instruments. You're not instrument rated. You're visual flight. And he was visual flight rated. He had about 4 or 5 hours on instrument training, but he just was not instrument rated. And he was up above a cloud. He was up above a cloud cover. And he said, look, I want to get down. And he's talking to a guy, a traffic controller down there. A guy says, well, you can't come down unless you're going to come down through the haze, through the fog. He said, are you instrument flight rated? He said, no, I'm not. He said, well, then I can't clear you. He said, look, the guy was scared. He said, I want to get down now. He said, the only way I can clear you to come down into that is if you declare an emergency. Do you want to declare an emergency? Because when they declare an emergency, that man can do anything to get that plane down safely. He said, yes, I'm declaring an emergency. And so this guy began to give him everything he needed to know to bring that plane slowly down through the clouds. He began to, and I mean, he says this, something like, I'm entering, if you ever flew, you get above the clouds and you go down in it. He said, I'm entering the clouds now, and like 15 seconds. I'm guaranteeing not 30 seconds went by, and it's a whole different guy. I mean, it is the same guy, but it's a whole different guy. And he's going, help me, I can't see. And the guy says, you're okay, just keep on flying. And then pretty soon what this guy began to do is he put the plane in a bank. But to him, it felt straight. Now, they have an artificial horizon. That's the standard. All planes have an artificial horizon. And in his artificial horizon, it was telling him he was in a bank. But brother, when this doesn't work, you don't believe the gauges. He didn't believe his instruments. And the guy is saying, he said, you're in a left turn. You're literally auguring in. He said, you are in a left turn descending. He said, no, I'm flying level. Help me, help me, help me. And this guy is absolutely panicked and flew that plane into the ground. Flew it right into the ground. Killed him and the three people with him. Now, the reason I say that is he knew about vertigo. You understand? He knew about the condition. But knowing about the condition didn't inoculate him from it affecting him. You get into a fog and you literally don't know which end is up. In my country, we say it this way: you become a Democrat, okay? And I'm going to talk to you about some things that or a spirit that is not an American spirit. It is not a North American spirit. There's a couple of spirits in this age. I was in Australia some years ago, and look, I'm gonna have to read here in a minute. So why don't we just pray now, and then I'll go on. Father, we thank you now, God, for your goodness, your grace, your great kindness. We thank you, Lord, for the message that we heard. So true that we need just to love one another. God, I ask that you be in this service. Father, please present the message to these people. I count these people as my friends. This is just not just a church I come and preach at. These are friends, and these are my brothers and my sisters. And God, no part of this world is going to escape the fog. And I pray, God, that some things will be helped here. Someone will be helped. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. I was in evangelism from 73 to 78 when I first got out of Bible college. Been in now the last 28 years. And somebody said, well, what's the big difference? And I said, well, the biggest difference I've seen, about 44 years of preaching, is this. If I went back 25 years ago, even 30 years ago, and I asked 10 pastors, what's your problem? I would get about 8 different answers. Okay, 2 of those guys might have the same problem, but I would get, I took a church and it's in great debt. And I'm trying to pay off the bills. I'd get another one where the previous pastor messed up and we're trying to live that down. I'd have another one where this guy in the church or some woman in church, one of the others trying to run me off. There would be about 8 different problems across 10 pastors. If I asked 10 pastors today what their problem is, it's almost about 8 of them would give me the same answer. And that answer would be this: I can get them saved, but I can't get them into church, and I can't get my people to do what they should. That is pretty much the problems in our American churches. And so it was back in 1992, I was preaching in Australia, and I was talking to the Australian pastor. He's not an American pastor, not an American missionary, but an Australian pastor. And I said, what are the problems that you have in your church? And he said this. He said, well, Australia is a different country than America. And I said, yeah. And he said, our people are different people than, we're different. Our culture is different. We think differently. And I said, yeah, I'm sure. And he said, so our problems are different than your problems would be. And I said, yeah, I can understand that. So I said, what's your problems? He said, well, basically, I only have 2 problems. I can get them saved, but I can't get them into church. And I thought, I bet I can guess the second one. And he said, I'm serious, almost word for word. He said, I can't get my people to do what they know they should. Now, let me tell you why that was a revelation for me, because at that moment, I realized that our planet was in a spiritual cloud. Our planet was in a cloud that literally went around it, And no matter where you are on the globe, it's going to affect you, okay? I was having lunch in a church out in California. And it was a different kind of church that I might normally be preaching in. And the guy says, look, I'd like my staff to come and have lunch with you, or you come have lunch with my staff. He had about 5 guys on his staff. And he said, they want to pick your brain, which as long as they're after my brain, I don't have a problem. It's when they're going for my heart. But he said, they want to ask you, and his whole staff are 30-somethings, you know. And I had said to my wife, I said, I see a thing in Bible-believing churches. I see a thing in the 30-something generation that they don't want to start anything. They don't want to go out and start churches. They don't want to start ministries. They all feel like they should step up to a ministry that is always here. The pastor will turn it over to them and just please get out of the way. And I thought it was unique to Bible-believing churches. And I'm in this church and we're having lunch. And this is what one of these kids said to me. I didn't say it to him. He said, my generation doesn't want to start things. We just want to take over what you guys started. We just want you to get out of our way. I mean, it was like he was reading from my script. And again, I saw, this is a spirit. You understand? We're in a fog. And it doesn't matter. And here's the amazing thing. When you fly into a fog, when you fly in that, even though it's your eyes are looking at the instruments, and your instruments say, you're flying straight and level. And you don't believe it. Guys, this is our instrument, okay? This is it. You guys know that you got to lay eyes on this book. Now, I say that to bring you to this. I see something in my country. If it's not in your country, just fine, you know, just the crazy yank. But I got a feeling this is a spirit, okay? And if it's a spirit, it doesn't stop at borders. This is not like our money where, you know, that changes at the border. It's not like our laws where it changes at the border. But I am seeing something in Christianity as a whole that scares me just a little because we are the guys that are really in the book. And if you want to know, it's just real short. I'm going to talk to you tonight about 3 words that are in peril. You know what peril means? Peril means just about to go, okay? Peril is that the ship is about to sink or may sink. It's in peril. Doesn't mean it's going to sink, but it is in peril of sinking. Isn't that right? And I'm going to talk to you about 3 words in peril. You see what I mean? 3 words that the world doesn't like, and I'm telling you, it's a spirit that is kind of, it's not penetrating our churches. It's like the air that we breathe. I don't know that we're going to avoid this. You say, then why are you telling us this? Because the only hope we got is to read that book, lock our eyes on the instruments, and when everything outside tells us that book is wrong, when you find yourself, you know what some of those guys do? It'll say it's flying straight and level, and they think it's not, and they'll turn it. And so what I'm telling you is, I'm going to just talk about 3 little words. They're nasty, and they're being driven. You know, somebody said, I think about 10 years ago, one of the major dictionary companies dropped the word Sodom from the dictionary. There's no Sodom, sodomy, sodomite, anything like that. They just dropped it. Oh, it's just not a nice word. Well, it's not a nice act either. But that doesn't make it go away by dropping the word. And that's what I'm seeing, you know. We are saying, well, we don't like that word, and we don't like that word, and we don't like that word, and we're just not going to say that word anymore, you know. And so I'm going to talk about 3 words that if they're not going to be said, they're also not going to be acted upon, and it's going to happen in our churches. It's happening in our culture, and it's going to happen in our churches. The first one here is in Matthew chapter 7. Now, you guys know that there are just a few verses that everybody knows. I mean, every drunk knows, well, drink a little wine for thy stomach's sake. Right? I mean, don't they all know that? And everybody knows, judge not. Look what it says. Matthew chapter 7, verse 1 says, judge not, that you be not judged. Now, everybody knows that one. I was in a guy's living room, and we're talking about something, and I don't know, whatever it was. Now, you wouldn't believe this, but, you know, I tend to be opinionated. Now, I know that's hard to grasp, but really. And so he said something, or we were talking about something, and I said, well, that's wrong. Guys, there are some things that are wrong, are they not? Okay. And I said, well, that's wrong. And he did this. He goes, judge not. Judge not. The Bible says you shouldn't judge, and you just judged. Now listen, they love to do that to you, and when you're a preacher, they love it twice as much. And so I just asked him, I said, well, am I wrong for judging? He said, yes. I said, quit judging my judging. Well, did you ever notice that everybody says don't judge, says you're wrong for it? Yeah. What is that? Come on. If it's right or wrong, if you say this is right, that's a judgment. If you say this is wrong, that's a judgment. To say it's right or wrong is a judgment. So if a guy says don't judge or you'll be wrong, you know what that guy should have said? When I said, is it wrong for me to judge? Was I wrong for judging you? He should have said, oh, far be it from me to judge. Look what the Bible says in verse 2. When it says judge, that says, for with what judgment you judge, ye shall be judged. And with what measure you meet, it shall be measured to you again. Guys, I am seeing this spirit of don't judge. Don't judge. And the young guys, I'm sorry, the younger generation. Well, I left that church because they're all judging. Oh, are they wrong for it? Just check in. Down in the States, they got a boneheaded girl named Britney Spears. Doesn't mean a thing to me. And a few years ago, she had a sister. A few years ago, her sister was 16 years old, and she's having a child out of wedlock. And the news is reporting. I'm listening to CNN news report, and he says, I don't know what her name is, but so-and-so, Britney Spears' sister, her 16-year-old sister is with child, and she's not married. And he goes, no, we're not judging. And I thought, well, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? Now, if you just said, well, she made a mistake. No, she didn't. It was a sin. Well, we're going to get to the point where that can't be sin anymore? You see, here's the thing. When you start saying, don't judge this and don't judge that and don't judge this and don't judge that, then you lose any right, you lose any wrong. And the spirit of this age is for no one to judge anything. I had a pastor call me, a friend. He called me, he said, I need some advice. I said, okay. He said, I got a man and his wife in my church. He said, they are always on my case. He said, they give me a hard time. They bite behind my back, disagree with everything I do. And I said, okay. And he said, their 18-year-old daughter, maybe 17, is with child, and she's not married. And he said, we're going to have to discipline her. I said, okay. He said, so what do you think I ought to do? I said, well, you got two choices. Now, here's what I believe, guys. I believe discipline without an opportunity of restoration is execution. Correct? I mean, if you go, that's discipline. I mean, if we don't give somebody who's been disciplined the opportunity to get right, then we've killed them. And so I said, you got two options. I said, you can, and because, one of the things that the brother Percy said, he said it in jest, but he knew it was true. He said, if you can't get the preacher, you go after the kids. Ben. Anyway, I don't talk about your dad down there, but boy, those people down there, you ought to see what they think of Ben. Anyway, no, and I said, you bring her before the church, and I said, you could just really pulverize her, and I said, she's got it coming. Look, I'll tell you something. If you ever do something that is wrong and you need to be disciplined, and somebody comes down on you with a ball being hammered, and go, well, it was too harsh in judgment. Well, you set yourself up for it, idiot. You set yourself up for it. Well, I thought they'd be more gracious. Oh, well. Right? Well, I thought they'd have some mercy. They're Christians. Why would you associate mercy with Christians? If you've been saved any length of time, you know we don't have grace or mercy. What's wrong with you? And I said, and here's what he's saying. The girl has sinned. I've got to bring her before my church. And I could really level that dad and mom who's giving me such a hard time with the plight of this girl. And I said, will you bring her up there? And I said, just hammer her. I said, you got that option. He said, yeah, I do. He said, what's my other option? I said, now look, the sin's got to be dealt with. But I said, you could be merciful to her. I said, no, she's got to be disciplined, but I said, you could be merciful. And I said, having her parents give you the hard time, it's easy to not do that. He goes, well, which one do you think I ought to do? I said, I think you ought to do the one that you would do if 6 months from now you hear it's your daughter. See, that's what verse 2 means. If he comes up here and it's like, 39 lashes, fine. But if 6 months later it's his daughter, it's got to be what? It's got to be 39 lashes. Because we all get gracious and merciful when it's our kids. Do you ever notice that? And when I said that, he went, oh. And we were done. He brought that girl up before the church and was merciful. He disciplined her, but he didn't crush her. He was merciful. And 6 months later, it was his daughter. 6 months later, it was his daughter. And he was never so glad that he had set a precedent for his judgment. But guys, here's our problem. We don't want to say anybody's wrong. You love yourself. You love yourself more than you love Jesus Christ. You love yourself more than God. Look, if you're soft, and then what you're going to say is, well, then let's just be soft to everybody's. But the Bible doesn't allow us that. Our instrument does not allow that. Isn't that right? I am not lighting up the torches and grabbing the pitchfork and going after anybody. But it's coming to this thing of where you can't say anybody is wrong about anything. But here's what you'll always find. They think we're wrong. And here's the two things to watch. Watch, because you're in vertigo, see? You're going to fly into this. You're going to fly into the fog. It's around the world, guys. You are, I got news for you. I'm sorry. Like the ozone, there's a hole. Well, there's not a hole in this spirit over Canada. It's like, the only place the air is clear is in Canada. I'm sorry. I believe this is going to be the whole globe. And the two things you watch is be careful because you're going to find yourself not wanting to judge. That shows it's the spirit. And be careful of how you want or don't want to judge when you hear people have done wrong. Watch yourself defending sports figures. Your favorite athlete. My goodness, guys, they're just athletes. I say it this way. I am from Massillon, Ohio. Massillon, Ohio, my hometown, is where pro football got its start. That is just a fact. The first pro football team in the world was my hometown, Massillon Tigers. And they were undefeated for like 7 or 8 years until somebody started the second pro football team. Boy, always somebody come mess a good thing up, My hometown, 33,000 people. Our high school stadium seats 24,000 people. Guys, wasn't there the day when the problem with an athlete, be it football player, let's say I pick another sport that nobody thinks about, hockey. I wouldn't say soccer. Anyway, but wasn't there a day when the problem with athletes was they were proud and arrogant and vain? Oh, for the good old days to return. Because now they're murderers and rapists and dope dealers. And then you hear about somebody that you like. What do you mean you like? You don't even know them. You don't even know them. They play for the team you want to win. Big deal. And you hear they did some horrible thing, and you find yourself saying, well, I don't want to say that they're wrong. But then, if I say that's wrong for anybody else to do it and not them, I'm crooked, so I know, I'll just make it not wrong for anybody. You love yourself too much. Look, don't you say you love that. You love yourself too much. When O.J. Simpson was on trial for killing his wife and that Ron Goldman, I'm listening to a radio talk show, and this guy is talking to the host, and he says, we're talking about O.J. Simpson. And he says, well, I don't think O.J. Simpson killed him. And he goes, well, there's a lot of evidence here. It sure seems to. He goes, and the caller says this, and you just about see him doing this, He says, well, I'll tell you what, the O.J. Simpson I know wouldn't do that. And the guy goes, oh, he said, you know O.J. Simpson. And the guy goes, Well, no, I've just seen him play football and seen him in movies. Now see, here's what I think. At that point, they ought to find out who that guy is, find out where he lives, go in his house and take everything sharp out of it. The guy should not allowed to eat with sharp things. He's going to hurt himself. He'd be easy to, you'd see him on the street, you'd know he's got 4 holes right here where he tried to use a fork once. I mean, the guy is an idiot. But you know what his problem was? His judgment was prejudiced by his affection for an athlete. And so you're going to go, well, but I like that entertainer. I like that athlete. I like them. And so I'm just not going to judge. But then you'll know your hypocrisy. So you go, well, then we just won't judge that at all. We're Christians and we're supposed to be gracious. That's not grace. That isn't grace. The second place would be your family. Oh, man. I mean, look, your kid is rotten. You understand that? But my kid is good. And if my kid goes down and robs a liquor store with a gun and shoots the guy, I want you to know there was a good reason for this. Somebody bullied him when he was in high school in the 3rd grade. High school in the 3rd grade. That's one of those statements when you figure out what I just said, come explain it to me. I know some guys are high school age in the 3rd grade. That's kind of what I was. But here's the thing, guys. I'm telling you, you're going to come upon something where that book says it's wrong. I didn't say it has to be sin. I said your instruments are going to tell you it's wrong. And some affection in your heart, something for somebody, some group, whatever the case may be, you're not going to want to judge. And then there's this spirit. You're going to be afraid of the bullies. You know who the bullies are. They got TV cameras, the biggest bullies on the planet. You know why CNN and the news don't like bullies? They don't like the competition. They're the biggest bullies on the planet. And I'll tell you about my country. In my country, Christians, King James Bible-believing Christians. I'm not talking about some other group. King James Bible-believing Christians are more afraid of offending some television set and some news announcer than they are the God that wrote that book. And they'll tell you they love God while they do it. And so, guys, the word judgment is in peril. And the only people who are going to be judged are the folks that say, well, you're wrong for doing that. But come on, guys. If they tell us we're wrong for doing it, how do they do that without what? So tell them that. If anybody, that's the answer. If anybody ever says, well, your church out there, they're too judgmental. You say, yeah, so you think that's wrong, huh? Yeah. Huh. You bigot. You ought to say, hey, you said you don't believe in judging. Why did you just judge? And so beware. I think the word judgment is in peril. I want you to go to Galatians chapter 5. Galatians chapter 5. And this is kind of swept in, especially with the contemporary churches, but again, it is sweeping in as a spirit around the world, and it is offense. Oh, I don't want to offend anybody. I'll give it a try. Give it a try. Do you know George Bush, when he was our president, he went into that Gulf War, and he changed the culture of our military in one way that we'll never get over. You know what the object of any fight is? The object of a fight is not to kill the guy you're fighting. It's to break his will. That's what he said when, let me up. Say uncle. Say uncle. Uncle. Okay, what happened? You broke his will. Let me ask you a question, guys. How did all of the allies of World War II defeat 2 real countries with real military called Germany and Japan in 4 years? And they can't defeat these guys that they shoot holes in the clouds every time they see a TV camera. Right? Look, you know how you conquer an Arab nation? With a gun and a TV camera. When you see them coming, you put up the TV camera, and they'll go, click, 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 click. Put down the TV camera. Easiest thing in the world. What are we doing fighting our country 17 years? We've been fighting 17 years. against a military that doesn't even exist? And I'm going to tell you why. You know how you don't beat somebody up? You hit him in the mouth and go, now don't take this personal, because I think you're really a great man. And hit him again and go, I owe you a lot. You've done some very great things. You're a proud person. You got a proud heritage. Hit him again and go, I just envy you. You've done so much for all of us. You cannot break their will. And here's what George Bush wanted to do. He wanted to drop bombs and bread out of the same planes. In his Gulf War, he said, we don't want to affect the electric or the water because we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. And, we're not out to upset anybody. We just want these several guys. You know what you do? Look, all this stuff about collateral damage. Now, I am not for attacking civilians, okay? I am not. But my military. Now, look, your country was in World War II too, wasn't it? And, brother, it was the British that bombed Hamburg, Germany. I'm talking about the city. I'm not talking about the munitions plant. I'm not talking about pinpoint bombing. It was fire raids on Hamburg, Germany. They dropped incendiaries on Hamburg, Germany. That fire got so hot that the roads were melting and bubbling and catching fire. They said, I've never heard of this, the air caught fire. The oxygen in the air literally was on fire. They said, you know how a fire has to have oxygen so it sweeps in along the ground and into the fire? They said the speed of the winds feeding the flames in Hamburg, Germany, World War II were 150 miles an hour. A hurricane is 70. A super hurricane is 120. No, 180. Sorry, 180. I think it's 120. But anyway, what I'm telling you is they killed more people in Hamburg, Germany than the two atomic bombs on Japan, on Nagasaki and Hiroshima. Well, I just don't think. Look. All I'm telling you is, you know what you do when you go to war against country? You tell everybody inside, nothing personal, but we're going to hammer you until you surrender. And then you open it up. Don't aim at the children. Don't aim at this. But do you understand there is going to be collateral damage? It got to the point where if one civilian got injured, everybody's going, look, the American military, they're baby killers. Do you understand that we have an army and they can't even make a joke about the Muslims? For the first time in our history, we have an army that is not allowed to offend their enemy. Now, look at what the Bible says in Galatians chapter 5, because that's what's going to happen. It says, well, I just don't want to offend anybody, I don't want to be offensive. Shut up, that offends me. Look what it says in Galatians chapter 5. And I, brethren, if I yet preach circumcision, why do I yet suffer persecution? Then is the offense of the cross ceased. Do you understand that there is an offense to the cross? The cross is one of the most offensive, our gospel is one of the most offensive things there is. You say, why? Well, think about this. Here's this guy. The Catholics here and the Catholics in my country, they're not near as rabid about their religion as, like, say, the Philippines, where at Easter time, some of those Filipinos absolutely, they allow themselves to be nailed to a cross. Some of them die from that. There are places where people get on their knees and they crawl up steps to a shrine to pray, and their pants and dresses are torn, their knees are bloodied. I mean, how would you like to have that kind of dedication and have some guy come along and say, oh, man, you don't need that. You see, one prayer, take care of it. Come on, salvation. One prayer takes care of it, doesn't it? Yeah. I mean, I always think this is amazing. You know what's amazing? We tell people salvation is free, and they get mad at us for it. I don't understand that reaction. That is like standing on a street corner passing out checks made out to cash for $5,000 to everybody that walks by. I'll give Ben too, because he took a lot of guff tonight. Anyway, get them from your dad. You're passing out checks for $5,000, and somebody goes, oh no, you're not taking care of all my financial problems that easy. I was talking to a guy one time when I was pastoring in upstate New York. He was a Catholic guy. And I told him salvation was by grace. I told him how, I didn't say anything ugly about his church. I just told him salvation was by grace, death, burial, resurrection, pray. And he got ugly. And I said, well, let me ask you a question. I said, what if I told you that you're on your way to hell? And that you could go to heaven for 5 cents. Think about that, guys. If you're on your way to hell right now, and the price, you say, how do I get to heaven? Pay 5 cents. Is that not the bargain of eternity? Isn't it? That is the bargain of eternity. I said, what if I told you you're going to hell, and for 5 cents you can go to heaven? I am telling you, his face lit up. Like, wow, he realized the bargain. I said, would that be good? He said, yeah. I said, what if I told you you had to give me the nickel? He got mad. He did. He wouldn't give this Baptist preacher a nickel to go to heaven. Now, you may not agree with me on this. I don't even care. But if I was going to hell, and I could go to heaven for 5 cents, and I had to give the nickel to the Pope, I'd send him a quarter. I would make sure, I am not going to hell on principle. All right? But guys, you have people that, you know what the cross is offensive to? It is offense to the religious people. There are people that are religious. There are people that go through all kinds of crazy things. You understand, when you say it's works, you know what happens next? The workers begin to kind of like, I'll see your work and raise you a work. I'll see what you're doing and raise you something. Well, you did that for your God? Well, here's what I'll do for my God. Until you got people to think that if they cut off people's heads, it's okay, that'll get them to heaven. And when we say that salvation is free, when we say that all of their prayers, that all of the hocus pocus and all of the water and all of the rituals, we say that it doesn't mean anything, it offends them. Well, I just don't have to tell somebody something to make them mad. Please do. How do you get offended and not get mad? Let me tell you what happened. I was Catholic. And I'm riding with a Christian. And I'd been going to this Baptist church for a couple of months, and and I'd heard my Catholic religion not just really railed on, but, they did have batting practice every now and then. And I'm riding with this Christian, and don't ask me why, but I was just thinking out loud. It's so rare it happened. I wanted to prove that I was doing it. And we drove past a sign, and this sign, it was a monastery, a Catholic monastery. And the name of this monastery was the Holy Rosary Monastery. Just like, you're driving and you go, oh, self-storage, A1 self-storage, or, oh, look, Pizza Hut. And I just happened to look up and I said, Holy Rosary Monastery. And this Christian goes, oh, the Rosary. It was the only thing I hadn't heard bad about my religion. I said, I just want to go right through the roof. I said, what is wrong with the Rosary? He said, it's just a bunch of beads. Oh. Man, I was hot. I was livid. And you know what I said about 5 seconds after I said that? There goes my rosary. You know why? Because right in there, I always knew it's just a bunch of beads. But it wasn't until somebody offended me, said something against my religion, told me my religion was wrong. It wasn't until somebody said it that I had to admit, I always thought it was just a bunch of beads. Yeah, I got mad when he said it, but guys, you know why people get mad? Because they're afraid you're right. Look, we are required to tell the truth. And so, guys, there is an offense to religious people. Well, sir, preacher, there's just a lot of people that aren't religious. Yeah, there's a lot of people that are righteous, self-righteous. Well, yeah, I know we got the crowd that lives like, that got the morals of a rabbit hutch, but they hug a tree and recycle, and they think that's going to get them to wherever they're going to go. But, there are some folks, I know that there's none good, but you got to admit, there's some of them sure make a shot at it. I don't knock any Hollywood star that pays for an orphanage or something. You say, well, they're just trying to work their way to heaven. Well, at least somebody else is benefiting for it. No, it's not going to get them to heaven, but let somebody else, that's at least some heroin money that doesn't get spent. Right? But there are people, have you ever met this? Have you ever met a lost person who is just as nice as a day is long? Have you ever met somebody who was that was kind and thoughtful and caring and humble and going to hell? They are in a semblance of righteousness, correct? And then you tell them everything you did isn't worth it? Everything you did isn't going to get you there? Guys, if you don't think that offends somebody, you're out of your mind. And here's what you want to do. Well, I just don't want to offend. You have got to offend them. Now, you know what the Bible says? Look at Ephesians chapter 4. In Ephesians chapter 4, verse 11, it says this. It's talking about God. It said, and he gave some apostles and some prophets and some evangelists and some pastors and teachers. For what? For the perfecting of the saints and for the work of the ministry and for the edifying of the body of Christ. My call is identical to these three pastors. My call, I'm right in the same verse, ain't I? I'm here for the perfecting of the saints, for the work of the ministry, for the edifying of the body. So what's the difference? I come here for a week and blow town. I come and I go. You know how I see my ministry? I see, when I come to a church, I preach for Brother Farley, I preach for Brother Lake, I preach for your pastor, I see these men as farmers. Now here's a farmer, and he's got the back 40 that needs plowed, he's got the barn roof that needs fixed, and he's got a tractor that needs rebuilt. And I come along, and he goes, I said, can I help you? And he goes, can you rebuild a tractor? No, I can't. You know how to run it? You know how to run a tractor? Well, yeah, but I couldn't handle that stuff. Well, can you roof? Oh, yeah, I can roof. So he's rebuilding the tractor, and his roof is getting fixed. Or I do the back 40. So the time he would have been losing, I just come and work for a week. I work their fields. I try to do something for them for the week that I'm there. But what's the goal? The goal is the same thing, a good crop. Isn't that right? Till we all come, verse 13, in the unity of faith. Boy, it's going to be a long time. And of the knowledge of the Son of God, unto a perfect man, unto the measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ, that we henceforth be no more children, tossed to and fro, and carried about with every wind of doctrine, by the sleight of men, and cunning craftiness, whereby they speak lies, whereby they lie in wait to deceive. Now watch what it says, verse 15. But speaking the truth in love may grow up into him in all things, which is the head, even Christ. Then, you know what we're required to do? We're required to tell the truth in love. Right? You guys may not know this. When I pastored, when I was in evangelism first time, or when I pastored, I used to yell a lot. I mean, I was a let her rip, scream it, you know. So you don't preach like that. When I broke my neck in 1973, and they cut my throat here and they fixed it, I woke up, they said, now look, there's a chance that you're going to wake up paralyzed from neck down. And when I woke up, I was not paralyzed from neck down. I got some friends think I'm paralyzed from neck up. But I was fine. But I couldn't talk. I couldn't talk because there's a nerve that, believe it or not, the nerve from your vocal cords comes down around your aorta and back up. And whenever they operate, if they affect that nerve, you lose the ability to talk. I couldn't talk. That's all I could do. And I told God this. Hey, Brother Percy, I don't want you in a wheelchair, but I'm so glad you can preach. I said, God, I remember I was in this bed, and I was telling them today, they had this like ice tong traction. They drilled 2 holes here, and they hung this rope. It went into the sidebar of the bed, and 20 pounds hung down from it. Big wheels on each side, and every 4 hours, they would put a board on the front of me, on top of me, and then they'd rotate, and they'd kick the bed back, and I'd lay on the floor for 4 hours, and then they, when I was done on that side, they'd flip me back over, a little salt, a little pepper, and I was glad my doctor wasn't from New Guinea. I'd have really been worried. And I remember one day, I am looking. Here's my argument. My argument was this. God, if I would have woke up from this surgery, paralyzed from neck down, and still had my voice, I could preach. You gave me my body back and took the one thing I've got to have to preach, my voice. And I'll tell you what it was. I'm laying face down. I am looking at the black and dark green checkerboard tile floor of room 238 in Doctor's Hospital. And I'm looking at a puddle of tears that are raining down from my eyes. And I came to this conclusion. Tell me if I'm wrong. When you love somebody, what Brother Percy was saying, when you love somebody, don't you want them to be happy? What if you could do something that made him happy? Isn't that even better? That's what I told the Lord. I said, when you love somebody, you want them to be happy. And I said, Lord, I love you. And you took my voice away. And if you took my voice away, then you did what you wanted to. And if you did what you wanted to, that must make you happy. And if you want my voice, if that makes you happy, I surrender never to speak again. You say, did your voice come back? My peace came back. I'm telling you that fast. My peace came back. It was 4 months before my voice came back. They never came back all the way. I had to go to another throat specialist when they did the surgery. In 2008, I went to a guy. He says, your vocal cords are partially paralyzed. He said, they're going to be more so after this one. I said, I know. If you know your vocal cords work on a bellows, air blown across them, and I can't tell you what the exact stats are, but let's just say it this way. If everybody needs 5 pounds of air across their vocal cords, I need about 8. So sometimes when I'm talking or preaching, I'll run out of air at the end of a sentence because I'm putting more air out. And so I lost my voice for 2 weeks in 2008 when they did the second surgery. But here's what, back in 86 when I left my church, I'd already had, and if I preach, I don't preach on the street. If I went today and preached on the street and raised my voice, I was in the Philippines in I think it was 1990, and all these Filipino pastors, like 29 of them there, and they would go down and preach on the street. And I said to God, if I go and preach on the street, I'm going to lose my voice. But if I don't go, I mean, you know what it was for the American to go? It would encourage, if I go, it's going to encourage these guys to do that. But I'm going to lose my voice. But if I don't go, no matter what the reason is, some of these guys are not going to do it. So I went and preached on the street. I did not speak for 3 months. For 3 months, I had my meetings. I screeched instead of preached. For 3 months, the next 3 months, I preached like this. That was it. But here's what I'm saying. I came to a decision just when I left my church. And it was this. If, I was preaching Sunday, I was teaching Sunday morning. I don't scream when I teach, but I was preaching Sunday morning and Sunday night, and Wednesday night wasn't a yeller. So really, out of 4 services in a week, only 2 of them was I really giving it to my vocal cords, and I could handle it. But I said, Lord, I'm going to be in churches all the time, every week, and I am. I said, if I keep preaching like this, I'm going to lose my voice. And I came to this revelation. Tell me if I'm wrong. I'll change if you tell me I'm wrong. Truth whispered is still truth. I mean, if I say, guys, I hate to tell you this, but I'm looking at flames coming down the hall. We probably ought to see if these really are doors. That is still as true as if I scream, fire! Right? And I said, you know what, Lord? I can't scream the truth anymore, or I'm going to lose my voice. And guys, that's the same thing. We are, preachers, we are bound. You know what bound is? Take a rope, bind you. We are bound by God to tell the truth. But so are you. But it doesn't say I have to take the truth and etch it into the head of a ball-peen hammer and go, there you go, you just can't take it, can you? You just can't take the truth. No. Here's what I say about truth. If I tell you the truth and the truth offends you, you need to change. If the way I tell you the truth offends you, I need to change. Isn't that right? But see, so here's the problem, guys. We want to get rid of the offense. You can't get rid of the offense. That book, doesn't your instrument say there is an offense to the cross? There is an offense. We tell the whole world they're gone to hell. Isn't this amazing? Have you ever heard anybody say this to you? Oh, you Baptists, you think you're the only ones going to heaven. You ever hear that? Did you ever stop and think about this? We're probably the only ones that don't think we're the only ones. Catholics think if you're not a Catholic, you're going to hell. Mormons think if you're not a Mormon, you're going to hell. Muslims think if you're not a Muslim, you're going to hell. Jehovah's Witnesses think that if you're not a Jehovah's Witness, you're going to go wherever they go when you're not a Jehovah's Witness. We're the only ones. I'll bet you every one of these preachers. I'll bet you anybody in here has ever preached. But I guarantee every one of these guys at one point in their ministry, somewhere in a sermon, they said, you don't have to be Baptist to get to heaven. We've all said it. You know why? You don't have to be Baptist to get to heaven. That means you can be Baptist and go to hell. Because there is a place in hell for Catholics, and there's a place in hell for Mormons, and there's a place in hell for Muslims, and don't tell the JWs, but there's a place in hell for them, and there's a place in hell for Baptists. Now, it's probably over here all by itself, because even there they won't fellowship with anybody else. Give Baptists credit. They may go to hell, but they'll keep their convictions. But guys, if I tell the truth wanting to offend you, I am wrong. But if I tell the truth and the truth offends you and you don't get right, you're wrong. And what we want to do is we want to say, well, I don't want to offend anybody, so I'll just change the story. But we can't change the truth. And I'm telling you this spirit of, well, I just don't want to offend anybody. I just don't want to be, oh, come on, man, offend somebody. Please, give it a wing. Give it a wing. I mean, it's not really too painful. There's some folks I enjoy it. There's a third one. Romans chapter 12. You know, they say this down in my country. They say, the Methodists, buddy, they were the old Methodists. I'm talking about salvation by grace and keeping it by works. But they were good people, and they... it was a lot of Methodist preachers that went across the West and founded churches and brought Christianity to our country, went around the world with missions. And they said that in the old days, if you wanted to borrow money and you were Methodist, and they'd say, what's your collateral? And they'd say, well, I'm a Methodist. The banker would go, good enough for me. They just knew a Methodist pays bills. Why don't you three Baptist preachers try that? We've come up with, I think we invented creative finance. That's new ways to get in debt. We've come up with what I call painless sacrifice. Say, is there such a thing? I don't know, but we're sure working for it. Look what it says in Romans chapter 12. It says, I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. We have come to a point. I see it every place I go. I have a hard time believing it's not here because I think it's in the air. You understand? Because I think it's a spirit. But we've come to a point. And I, again, when I address my remarks, they're not going out the window. I'm not talking about a First Baptist church. I'm not talking about some contemporary church. I am talking about every week, I am in this church right here in a different state or a different country. Every week I'm with another King James Bible-believing Baptist preacher who's independent, no hierarchy, no denomination. I'm telling you, every week I am in this church. Don't you, whatever you do, don't get this, well, I guess it's just us left. No, you're everywhere. We really are. And I'm seeing in our churches that we don't want to sacrifice anything for God. We don't want to give up anything for God. Again, guys, there was a time when the attitude of the world toward God and the attitude of the church were very different. I say today that they're identical. Here's what the world says. You ask some lost guy to come to church Sunday and he'll say something like this. Hey man, I work hard all week. That is the only day I have, and I am not sacrificing it to go be with a bunch of hypocrites. Okay? That's what they think. But the other side of the coin, you know what it is? But if my kids are sick, hey God, take care of it. It's me. You got to take care of my kids. Let me tell you where we live in the States, and you guys aren't far from it. We live in Disney World. We all live in Disneyland. Everybody wants to go to Disneyland. Anybody here ever go to Disneyland or Disney World? Anybody? Okay, question. Did you ride every single ride? No. Still enjoy yourself? You have a good time? Yeah. So you can go to Disney World and not partake of everything it offers and still have a pretty good time, right? You know what I tell people in my country? I don't tell them, look, I'm not one of these guys, live on a mountaintop, wear burlap, eat wheat germ, no water, no electric, suffer for Jesus. That's suffering for stupidity. That's not suffering for Jesus. I tell them you can have remote start on your car. You can have air conditioning. You can have carpet on your floors. And I was talking to a guy. I mean, some people, I think that their brains, if they die, they're going to do an autopsy. You know what they're going to say? His brain was pristine, as though it was never used. I was talking to a guy one time, and he goes, I don't like them padded pews. He said, I like them old hard wooden pews. I said, you're out of your mind. I am made for comfort. I am a product of my generation because I like padded pews. I really do. I like central air. I like heated baptistries. You ever talk to anybody go, when I got saved is in January. And they broke the ice on the pond to baptize. Man, I said, yeah, they probably used your head. Bud, I hate to tell you this, but if I'd have gotten saved in January, of course for you guys, it's like January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September. I'm like, what do you guys do in the summer? Oh, I asked a guy up here one time. He said, well, if it falls on a weekend, we have a picnic. But if I'd have got saved in January and then said, brother, we're going to break the ice in the pond and baptize you. I said, hey, what? You sprinkle me, I will be a Methodist till July. What I'm telling you guys, your country offers a lot. Canada is a rich country. Your culture offers a lot. Does it not? I'm talking about comforts, enjoyment of life. Do you have to have absolutely everything? Do you have to have everything? And I tell people down in the States, you can enjoy 90% of what this country offers and not compromise. I would think that, because I can enjoy 90, come on guys, I preach where there is no running water and there is no electric. Brother, I mean, nothing, you want to wake you up better than an alarm clock? A lizard chasing a cockroach across your chest in the middle of the night. You will find out how fast you can stand up and be ready to go. If you didn't already. Anyway. And I say, I am thrilled that I can enjoy 90% of what my country offers. I don't have to sell to compromise on the last 10%. And when I say that, the lost guy? Don't tell me I got to sacrifice for God. Our people are, it isn't fair. It isn't fair that you think I should have to say no to myself over anything. I shouldn't have to sacrifice anything for God. But it's the same coin. But if my kids are sick, God, I'm a King James Bible believer, I'm talking to a pastor. Now, did you ever notice this? This was before cell phones. But isn't it amazing in the era of cell phones that a friend will call you when you're at a restaurant just as they start playing the raunchy music? But I explain. I just say, don't worry, I'm in a restaurant, but I said, we just bought this CD, but we got the Christian words. Well, this missionary was coming to a church, and he called the pastor. But this is, there's no cell phones, but here's this really bad music. I mean, it's really bad. We're not talking about, and this was back when they were still playing nice music in restaurants. And this preacher goes, where are you? Hooters. What are you doing in Hooters? Oh, they got the best chicken wings in the country. I'm not sure it was the wings. But now let me ask you a question. No, I'm not going to ask you a question. I'm going to tell you this. I like chicken wings. If Hooters has the best wings in the country, I will never know. I'll just never know. Wow, isn't it awful to think that this 10% that I'm not going to indulge in, I'm going to lose a shot at the best. Well, why don't you have them just delivered? And I don't want to give them my money. I don't want to be in them. I'm never going into place, not going to go into place. And I don't want to give them my money and have them delivered, okay? Well, don't you think you deserve the best? I deserve hell. I don't deserve the best of anything. I deserve hell. I didn't say I deserved hell when I got saved. Yes, I did. But I didn't quit deserving hell just because I got saved. I'm still wicked, you understand? And guys, so you're going to tell me that I can, hey, you know what my favorite chicken wings are? Pizza Hut. We like the Pizza Hut chicken wings. Oh, but Hooters are so much better. Then I guess I'll just lob that into that 10% that I don't get to take part in. Man, the sacrifice. Yes, Jesus, I never knew what Hooters chicken wings are like, just for you. I mean, can you imagine you saying that? You know what I think the Lord's going to say? Hold it right there. Send in Harlan Popoff. You know, the guy that was 13 years in a Romanian prison and tortured for his faith. Stand right next to him. Okay, Gipp, tell him what the toughest thing you did for me was. Guys, we don't want to give up anything. And I hate to say this, but the younger generation is the worst. The 20s and 30s. You know what? You look, your goals are out there. And you are going to have to sacrifice something. You say, like what? How about your dream? Have you heard anybody say, you need to have a dream? No, you don't. You know what the difference between, now get this. Do you know what the difference between a visionary and a dreamer is? They've painted a dreamer up like some romantic thing, you know, a fool on a hill, looking at the clouds. You know what he is? He's a fool on a hill. He's doing nothing but looking at clouds. But he's dreaming. Yeah? We better turn around and start eating that grass because that's all he's going to have. Let me tell you what the difference between a visionary and a dreamer is. If a dreamer's dream comes true, he usually is the hero. His dream is, I'm going to pull somebody out of a burning building. I'm going to knock out the heavyweight champ with one punch. Everybody's going to see what a great person I am. Dreamers always have a movie where they star as the Schwarzenegger figure. And if their dream comes true, everyone will know what a great person they are. A visionary, if they can bring their vision to fruition, everybody else benefits. There was a man, he was a visionary. You know what his vision was? Electric lights. And his vision came true. And the whole world has benefited. There were a couple of bicycle mechanics had a vision of having something fly through the air that is heavier than air. And they had the first plane. And we have all, look, he flew in, I flew in. Oh well. Anyway. But what I'm saying is, when a visionary says, I'm going to find a cure for that. When a visionary's vision comes true, everybody benefits from it. And you know, we've got this whole generation, and you just have to have a dream. No, you don't. No, in fact, your dream is probably what's going to keep you from ever doing anything in life. You ought to dump your dream. If you want to get a vision, that's fine, but you need to dump your dream. Would you be willing to sacrifice your dream for the Lord? No, you don't have to say amen or nothing, because you just say yes because you're supposed to say yes. Would you give up your life? I'm talking about whatever you'd like to do. You know what I want to do? I want to have my own body shop. I like painting cars. I like working on cars and painting cars. And my dream was to have my own body shop. I got saved 10 weeks later at Bible college, came back to Ohio, worked my first summer in the body shop that I was working in when I got saved. And I came back, worked for 3 months. At the end of the summer, I told my boss, I said, well, Rod, I'm going back down to Bible college. I said, I'll tell you what, I'll come up next year and I'll work for you next summer too. And he said, no, you won't. I said, why not? He said, I'm selling the whole place, moving to Texas. Houston, probably. He said, I said, who are you selling to? He said, you, for $7,000. He was selling me, I'm talking a business, probably at least $15,000 worth of tools, plus the property, plus the building, plus a house. He's going to leave his name on it. He said, I'm going to lock it up one night, give you the key, you unlock it the next day. $7,000. Oh yeah, you say, was that a good deal? That was a steal. But do you know what that is for somebody who that was not just a good business venture, but when all you ever wanted was your own body shop. And it is right there. Say, what happened? About that much. About 5 seconds. I said, no, not me, Rod. God's called me to preach. Can you walk away from your dream? That was my life. That's what I did. Can you walk away from your life? One of the hardest things I did. I kept my body shop tools for years after I was in the ministry. I worked and I'd buy a car and fix it up, sell it, turn $1. Man, when we went on the road, I sold all my tools. You know how hard it is for a man to part with tools? But they'd have been sitting for 28 years now. What good would they be anyways? And I have to realize now, guys, if I come off the road, I doubt you're going to hear, and Gipp got a job at a body shop. But what I'm telling you is, are you willing to sacrifice your dream? Are you willing to sacrifice your life? How about this one? You want to sacrifice your health? Well, I just don't think God would want me to sacrifice my health. Boy, you better not talk to a bunch of missionaries that have gotten malaria. There's some guys that they've had malaria so much. You know, I got a friend, his name's Bobby Bonner. Bobby Bonner, his whole dream was to be a professional baseball player. And Bobby Bonner made it. He got called up to the Baltimore Orioles. You know how good this guy was? I saw a baseball card his rookie year. It had 2 players on this card. On one side was Bobby Bonner. On the other side was a guy, 2 nobodies, Cal Ripken Jr. And they said both these guys are destined for the Baseball Hall of Fame. And Bobby Bonner got called to Botswana, Africa. Saved guy. He played his dream for a mere 3 years. When he walked away, they said, his team's guys, Bobby, you're nuts. You're not just walking away from this. You're walking away from fame, from wealth. You're walking away from the opportunity to be in the Hall of Fame. And what are you going to do? Go run around Africa and catch some disease? That's exactly what he did. He now is in this country running the mission board because they said, you have had malaria so many times, one more time will kill you. Your heart is just perforated. He gave up his life. He gave up his dream. He gave up his health. He sacrificed it. How about Adoniram Judson? Say what he sacrificed. Try his wife. You know what God said to Ezekiel? Ezekiel's the only marriage that I'm sure was a happy marriage. I'm serious. You know this, look, I believe in happy marriage. I believe in dad and mom and the kids, you know, all those little things on the back window of the car, the little stick figures. But you have to acknowledge that you don't find that family in Scripture. And people make that family an idol. But look at this. Look at Ezekiel chapter 24. God wanted to get a lesson across to his people. And he told this prophet, look at verse 15. Ezekiel 24:15. Also the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, behold, I take away from thee the desire of thine eyes with a stroke. It was his wife. Man, she was the desire of his eyes. He loved this lady. Yet neither shalt thou mourn nor weep, neither shalt thy tears run down. Forbear to cry, make no mourning for the dead, bind the tire of thine head upon thee, and put on thy shoes upon thy feet, and cover not thy lips, eat not the bread of man. So I spake unto the people in the morning, and at even my wife died. And I did in the morning as I was commanded. How's that for sacrifice? I've been trying to sacrifice my mother-in-law for years. I love her so much. Anyway, but guys, think about that. What are you willing to sacrifice? I like what he said. He said, if me dying makes the Lord happy, that's good. Well, you got someplace when you got there. You know that? But see, we've all got this, well, God wants me to be happy, and God wants me to be rich, and God wants me to be famous. And no, he wants you to be holy. And he wants you to be pliable. And he wants you to be willing. You know what he really wants? He just wants you to do what he tells you to do. But it's not all fame and it's not all flash. And as soon as we see that it might cost me anything, I am not going down that road. And it is not fair for anybody to say that my supposed professed love for Christ should cost me anything. I shouldn't have to give up anything. See, I'm not talking about sin. I'm talking about things that, come on, is there something wrong with life? Is there something wrong with this guy having a wife? Is there something wrong with one in good health? No, these are things that we take for granted. Are you willing to give it all up? You know what I recommend? I recommend you get a cardboard box. Take a piece of paper and write everything you want. Get this piece of paper and you know, here's my dream. I want to do this. I want to do this. I want one of these. I want to drive this car. I want to live in this house. I want people to think this of me. Put it all in there. Put every dream, every desire, every want. And look, it's just you, so you can even tell the truth. Nobody else is going to read it. And then put it in that cardboard box. And then bring that cardboard box to the altar and set it on fire. And say, Lord, there's everything I want. I have held back nothing. There's no secrets between you and me. This is everything I want. I'll sacrifice it all. We don't like judgment. We don't like to offend. And we don't want to sacrifice. And I'm telling you guys, I'm not talking about the contemporary churches. I'm not talking about the modernist churches. I'm talking about our churches. How do you know? Because I'm in these churches every week, and what I am telling you is exactly what I'm seeing. And I'm seeing it across generations, and I'm seeing it across national borders. I'm seeing it across cultures. You know why? Because it's the air. It's the spirit. And if you're breathing, pal, you're breathing the air. You understand? If you're alive, you're going into the cloud with everybody else, and you're going to be subject to vertigo. You say, well, preacher, what can I do? Like never before, you better fix your eyes on the instrument panel. Those panels, those instruments, never wrong. Never. You ever seen a movie, some guy, like the fuel gauge on his plane has gone down, and they'll go like this. They go, just to see if it pops back up. You don't have to do this. You don't have to do it. It's always right. And you're going to find out, don't you kid yourself. I am telling you you know how many people this is going to affect in this room? Every single one of you. There's going to be a time when you're going to want to take a step back from any kind of judgment. And you're going to take a step back from any kind of offense. And you're going to want to take a step back from any kind of sacrifice. Say, why? Because that is the spirit of the age. That is the spirit. You cannot evade that spirit. Say, what do? You're going to have to lock. I gave you the 3 gauges. You got a gauge in Matthew, and a gauge in Galatians, and a gauge in Romans. And you're going to have to look at this book and say, you know something, God? This book is really contrary to how I feel. It didn't change. Okay, I'll stick with the book. I'll stick with the book. Guys, there's never been a time, I don't think ever, in the history of Christianity when Christians needed to be more integrated, more glued, more addicted, more buried in this book than now. Not just because we love it. It is the only safe thing there is. It is the only thing that will keep you safe. I don't mean get out of church and stick with the book, because if you stick with the book, you're going to stay in church. But what I'm telling you guys, you need that book, and you're going to see the spirit of the age, and it's going to affect you, because it affects me. Yeah. I mean, hey, you think I get tired of offending people? You think I want to sacrifice? You think I get tired of judging? But guys, I have to look at this and go, boy, if I listen to Gipp, I'm in trouble. But my gauges are infallible. You need to bind your heart to that book like it's never been bound before. You need an allegiance to that book above your feelings. and above your desires.